Hello, today I want to show you how to make these little sparkle bugs. They are quick and easy to make, and the amount of different combinations with colors and little gemstones you can do are endless. So let's get started with what materials we're going to use. The bugs take 3 colors of yarn. I'm going to be using light yellow for the main body color. I'll be using gray for the head, antenna, and the little line down the center that separates the wings, and then white is for the eyes. I'll be using a 3.25mm crochet hook, pair of scissors, yarn needle, stitch marker, some pretty small safety eyes because they're going to fit right inside the eye, right in the very center. Whatever color little gemstones you'd like to use. I have E6000 and then just some toothpicks in order to avoid touching the E6000 as much as possible, and then just a little bit of polyfill. We'll begin by making the main body, and how we're going to do that is we're going to start off with our main body color, which mine is the light yellow yarn, and we're going to start off by making a magic ring. And how I make mine is by laying the yarn across my index finger and middle finger, wrapping the yarn around so it crosses, and then bringing it around to the front. I'll take my crochet hook and I will place it under the first line of yarn, bring it through. I just kind of bring it under everything, and what that does is it just brings a little loop up onto the hook, and then I come around the front, I grab the second yarn, and I just pull it through. And that's how I make my magic rings. And there's so much tutorial out there as far as how to make them. You may find one that works better, but I just wanted to show you how I did mine. And then what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet 6 into the magic ring. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now what we'll do is we'll pull our tail, but not really tight. That way it makes that first stitch easy to go into on round 2. And then after round 2 we'll pull it tighter to close up that little gap. But for our first round we've completed 6 single crochet into our magic ring. And in the next round we'll go ahead and increase to 12 stitches. For round 2, I have my stitch marker in place, and we're going to increase in each of these 6 stitches, and all that is just placing 2 single crochet in each stitch. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to start crocheting over my little tail just to kind of get that out of the way. And we'll do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Get our stitch marker out of the way, and then we've got 11 and 12. And now I can give that a much tighter tug just to get that closed up so we don't have any gap from where we started. So that is round 2. We've increased to 12 stitches, and in round 3 we'll be increasing to 18. For round 3 we're increasing to 18 stitches, and our pattern for our increase will be to increase in our first stitch and then to single crochet 1 in the second stitch. So again, we're going to put 2 single crochets in our first stitch and then 1 single crochet in the next, and that will be our pattern all the way around. So we've got, there's a single crochet, and we'll do an increase, a single crochet, an increase, followed by a single crochet, the final increase for round 3, and then our single crochet. So now we're up to 18 stitches, and in row 4 we're going to go ahead and increase again to 24 stitches. Round 4 we're increasing to 24 stitches, and we're going to do that by increasing in our first stitch. And then we're going to follow that by a single crochet in the next stitch, and then a single crochet in the next stitch after that. So again, our pattern will be to increase, followed by 2 single crochets. Got our increase, 1 and 2, increase, we've got 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, and then we are on our final increase, and then 1, pop the stitch marker out, there we go, and finally 2. And so we are now up to 24 stitches. We'll be doing another increase, which is our final increase on the body, and we'll be going up to 30 stitches. We are on round 5, and we're going to do our final increase to 30 stitches. And we'll be doing the same kind of simple pattern where we will increase in our first stitch, and then we will single crochet 1, 2, and 3 following after. So we've got our increase, then 1 single crochet, 2, and 3. All right, increase, 1, 2, and 3. So another easy pattern, just work that all the way around. Increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, and we are on our final increase for round 5. There's 1, 2, and 3. So we've got all our increase rounds taken care of, and then we are going to be working on rounds 6 through 9, where we'll just single crochet 1 in each stitch for those 4 rows. So we are ready to start rows 6 through 9, and all we're going to do is place a single crochet in each stitch for the next 4 rounds. I will have you complete rows 6 through 9, and then I will meet you back here, but I would like you to stop on row 9 about 5 stitches from your stitch marker. That way we can go through the color change together. So just keep crocheting up until 5 stitches before the stitch marker in row 9, and then we'll go through that and get that all set. Okay, so I have stopped about 5 stitches away from the end of the 9th round, and I've got my secondary color, the one that's going to go for the antennas and then the face part and what we're going to use for the bottom of the bug. So I've got that ready, and what I'm going to do for my color change, and if you have an easier way of doing this, go right ahead, but I just wanted to show how I did mine. So I just lay my yarn that I'm going to change to just over my working yarn, and I will crochet over it. There's 1, 2, 3, kind of straighten that out a little, 4, and let me pop out my stitch marker. And then on the 5th and final stitch in round 9, I'm going to bring through my yellow yarn, but I'm going to finish the stitch with my second color. So I'm just going to pull that through. And now we've got our next color ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and we'll start on round 10 next, where we're going to single crochet in 1 in each stitch, but we're going to do it in the back loop only. Okay, let's start on round 10, working in the back loop only. And what I'm going to do with the yellow yarn that I still have, I'm going to cut off from the main yarn. So we're just working with the gray, but I'm going to crochet over the tail of the yellow yarn just to kind of hold everything in place. But let's go ahead and start working in the back loop only, where we're going to crochet 1 in each back loop. Let me get my stitch marker back in. Okay, so we just come in through that back loop, work over our tail. We can just do that for a few stitches just to kind of secure it and make sure that nothing unravels with our yellow yarn. And then what I'll do is I'll have you finish this round just working in that back loop only. And then we will meet up and then we'll start decreasing. Okay, so we have completed round 10 working in the back loop only, and you should be able to see this ridge right along here where the yellow and my yellow and gray meet, and that way you can kind of tell that the front loop is still there and you just worked in the back loop only. So we're going to go ahead and in round 11 we're going to decrease from 30 stitches down to 24. So let's go ahead and start what pattern we'll be doing for our decrease, and I use an invisible decrease, and if you're not familiar with that, I can show you how I do mine. And I know it's kind of hard because they're darker stitches, but I go through the front loop of my first stitch, I go through the front loop of my second stitch, I pull through those 2 loops, so I have 2 loops on my hook, and then I just pull through again. And that's how I do my invisible decrease. And then we're going to single crochet 1, 2, and 3. So let's do that again. We'll go through the front loop of the first stitch, front loop of the second stitch, pull through those so you have 2 loops remaining, and then just pull through again. And then we'll do 1, 2, 3 single crochet. And if you have an easier way of decreasing, go right ahead. I just wanted to give you an option if you wanted to try the invisible decrease. So there was the decrease, 1, 2, and 3. We've got our decrease, 1, 2, 3. Decrease, 1, 2, 2, 3, and we're doing our final decrease followed by the 3 single crochet. Okay, so we are now down to 24 stitches, and in our next round, which will be round 12, we'll be going down to 18 stitches. Okay, let's start round 12, where we'll be going from 24 stitches down to 18, and our pattern will be to do our decrease followed by 1 single crochet and a second single crochet, and then we got our 1, 2, grab some more yarn, we've got our decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, and the nice thing is it just goes so quick as you're decreasing. Oops, I think I messed that one up there. Let me grab that a little bit better. Okay, decrease, 1, 2, and then our final decrease, 1 and 2. And I'm really hoping you're able to see okay with these darker yarns. Sometimes it's harder to see the stitches. But okay, we are done with row 12, and we're going to start working on row 13 next, where we'll decrease down to 12 stitches, and then we have one more row after that, which will be row 14. But let's go ahead, and before we start row 13, where we'll decrease down to 12 stitches, let's go ahead and put some stuffing in. So we're adding stuffing in, but our goal is not to stuff this very much as far as having it really puff out, because what we want to do is have this side well rounded, but then this side we're going to want to be as flat as we can. That way it just has a flat finish, you know, for your bug to be able to sit well enough. So we don't want to have it where it bulges out at the bottom. And so I've got some yarn to start off with, and just something to kind of start filling out the form. And then as we do the next final 2 rounds, we'll go ahead and stuff as we go. That way we can see where we're at. So let's get ready to start on row 13, where we'll decrease down to 12 stitches. Okay, we're going to decrease from 18 stitches down to 12. And it's just a simple pattern of decreasing in our first stitch and a single crochet after. And so this one will just fly right through. So we've got our decrease followed by our single crochet, and let's get our single crochet. Just trying to make sure I'm not grabbing stuffing as I'm pulling the hook through, because that's one thing the stuffing likes to catch and get pulled right through those stitches so easily. So we've got our decrease, single crochet, our final decrease, and pop out our stitch marker. And then we have our single, whoops, and I just lost that one, and our single crochet. So we'll kind of pull our hook out and kind of play around with it and see that it's still kind of a little flat there. So I'll add a little more stuffing in and just kind of get an idea of how well that's staying up. And that seems to be doing pretty good. And then what we'll do is on our final round, where we're going to decrease down to 6 stitches, About halfway before we get there, we'll check it again to see if we need to add any more stuffing. We are on round 14, our final round, and we are going to decrease down to 6 stitches. And we're going to work about halfway around this round, and then we're going to check on our stuffing. So let's do just decreases one right after another. We don't have any single crochets. So decrease 1, decrease 2. I'm going to move that stitch marker out of the way. And then we'll do our third decrease. And then I'm just going to pull my hook out and see, do I need any more stuffing? And one thing I really want to do is make sure I'm getting the edges stuffed, and I might add just a little bit more in while the opening is still big enough to work with. Once it gets any smaller, it almost gets frustrating trying to get your stuffing all spread out even. So I think I am pretty happy with that. And so when it's kind of pushed flat, it's really popping out well on the top. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to decrease the final 3 times. And so there's 1, 2, pop out my stitch marker, and 3. And then to finish off, I'm just going to place a slip stitch in the next stitch and just leave a length of tail to sew this little gap closed. So I'll just pull my yarn through. I'm going to grab up my yarn needle, get that threaded, and then the way I close it up, and I know it's a little harder to see with the darker stitches, but I go through from the center out in the front loop only, and I just go through each one and just come through all 6 stitches. And then I just give it a firm tug to pull everything closed, and then I just take my yarn and come in through the center and then just pull it through a couple times to really kind of bring that in to make sure everything's laying flat, and just weave it in through the other side. And then we can cut off this remaining tail. Just kind of give it a squish to kind of move everything around. And that's everything for the body. So this part's all done and we're doing great. The rest that you're going to find is really easy to make up the last little parts to get them all put together. And then the fun part is putting on the little sparkles. So we've got the body all done. Next we're going to go ahead and start on making the part that is kind of considered the head. So we are ready to start on the head. The head consists of a total of 5 rounds, and so let's start off with our magic ring. And I'll just again do mine kind of slowly so you can see the magic ring again, how I do it. Okay, and again we're going to place 6 single crochet into our magic ring. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll pull it tight, but not too tight. And then in round 2, we'll be increasing to 12 stitches. We're on round 2, and we're going to increase in each of the 6 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to start kind of crocheting over this tail. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we've got 12 stitches, and in our next round, round 3, we'll be increasing to 18. We're on round 3, which is our final increase round to increase to 18 stitches. So we'll just go ahead and increase in our first stitch, and then single crochet in our next. So that's an increase followed by 1 single crochet. So increase and then 1. Increase followed by a single crochet. Increase and then 1, and then we're going to increase and then our single crochet, and that's all our increases. Rows 4 and 5 will be to single crochet in each of the stitches around for those 2 rows, and then we're just going to end it with a slip stitch. So let's get ready to start on rows 4 and 5. Okay, I will start round 4 with you, and we are just going to single crochet 1 in each stitch, and then once we are done with round 5, we're going to end it with a slip stitch and then just leave a long tail for sewing onto the body. So I'll let you go ahead and finish up row 4, and then I will meet you after we've completed round 5. So I've just completed my last stitch in round 5, and what I was going to have you do is just end it with a slip stitch in the next stitch. We're going to go ahead and cut off a long tail for sewing, and we just pull our hook out, and this is what it'll look like. And we are going to go ahead and now place this onto the body, and I'll show you how I went ahead and did that. So we're going to go ahead and take our yarn needle and the tail of the face part of the bug, and what I like to do is I like to place the face right over the color change so you can't even see that. And I place mine where it curves down to the bottom of the body, where the ending is centered with the bottom of the body, and it goes up pretty high onto the top of the body. And then I just stitch all the way around, and I just do that by taking my hook. I just go in through the body, I come up through the stitch, and then go down through the next stitch, and then just repeat that all the way around. And you don't have to worry about stuffing. It's just going to lay flush right up against the body, and that's all it takes to attach the head on to the body. So go ahead and finish stitching all the way around, and then what we'll do next is we will go ahead and put the stripe that separates the wings. So this little line that kind of divides the 2 sides of the wings. So I'll meet you back after you've finished the attachment of the head. So I've got the head all the way flat up against the body, and then just once you've got your final spot sewn, just make sure you take your tail and just go through the body a few times. That way it makes sure that your yarn is secure. So that's all it's going to take. To get the head on. And then next what we're going to do is we're just going to do kind of a back stitch all the way down along the back to separate the two sides, and I'll show you that next. So I've cut off a long piece of yarn, and I'm just going to go ahead and thread my yarn needle. And what I'll do is I will kind of take it and kind of figure out where right down the middle is. And I'm going to kind of go through there and come up right kind of underneath the last little lip of the head as straight as I can. And so it looks like right about here. That should do it. Kind of squeeze everything. And then I'm just going to pull the yarn through. Just have a little tail sticking out at the end. And then my goal is to keep it as straight as I can. Now you could just take it and sew it straight down and not do a back stitch. That would be fine. I just do a back stitch so nothing catches on this and kind of pulls it out. And so I'm just going to come through the next stitch and kind of come up through, and you can see I've got my first little one right here, and I'll come back through there and up through the very center, and then hopefully try, and that is not always easy to do, but to keep everything as straight as possible going down the back. And then I've just got kind of like this little tail in the back just to keep me on track to see where I should be aiming for. But that's all you have to do. And like I said, you can just go ahead and just keep a straight line down. That has a really nice clean look. But I had one that I did that with, and it seemed like everything was catching on it and trying to pull it out. So that's why I went with this option. But if it's just going to be sitting on a shelf or just where kids probably won't be pulling on anything too much, then that would be a real easy way to go. So, okay, just go ahead and keep doing your back stitch all the way down to the end. And then the next thing we're gonna work on, the last part we used the gray yarn for, we're gonna get the antennas ready to go ahead and sew on. But we'll do that after the eyes have been placed, but we'll go ahead and at least get them ready to go. So I've got the line going down the back of my bug. It's not straight or perfect, but we'll just say it gives him character and just his own uniqueness. So we've got that all taken care of, and now the next thing we're going to work on is our antennas. And those are pretty easy to do, and so I will go through making the first one with you, and then I'll have you make the second one. But let's get started on our first antenna. My completed antennas are going to be done in gray, but because it can sometimes be hard to see the stitches as we go, I'm going to demonstrate how to make this using white yarn. That way you're going to be able to see everything much easier. So go ahead and grab whatever color antenna your yarn is, and let's go ahead and make a slip knot. And I do that by wrapping the yarn around my index finger. So I go 1 and then 2, and then hold both parts of the yarn together with my thumb and middle finger. I then take the back yarn and pull it over the front yarn, and then I take the yarn that's now in the back and then pull that over off of my finger, and then I just place my hook inside and just pull. Now when we do our chain, we don't want to do it really tight, but not loose either, and I'll show you. So first, let's go ahead and chain 11. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And the reason I don't want it chained too tight is because we are going to be going through the back bumps on the chain. So when you're looking at your chain, this little ridge kind of like the spine of the chain, is where we're going to single crochet through. And if you've made your chain really tight, it can be a little frustrating getting in there. So what we'll do is, coming from the second chain off our hook, or as you turn your chain to see the back, it'll be the first little back bump right here. We're just going to take our hook and we're going to go through there and then just single crochet. And we're going to do that all the way down. Now if you have one that's particularly hard to, oh my goodness, particularly hard to get into, take your yarn needle and just go in and just kind of give it a little lift. And it'll make it much easier for, or it should make it much easier for your hook to slide in. And the reason that we go through the back bumps instead of just chaining down the side, which is completely fine to do, is it just gives it a tighter look where there's not gaps as big through where the chain and the single crochets are, and it just gives it a nicer finished look. And so it's nothing that's hard to do, it's just a little slower than it would be if we just did our single crochets right down the side of the chain. So we're almost to the end. And then once you have completed this first one, I'll have you go back and make one more. And so we've got down to the end of the chain. I'm just going to cut off the length of tail just when it comes time to sew on, and just kind of pull everything, kind of tug on everything to make sure everything's nice and tight. And that is what our antenna looks like. So go ahead and make the second one, and then when we meet up, we'll go ahead and start working on the eyes. Okay, we're ready to start our eyes, which are just 3 rounds long, so it'll go really quick. And we'll start off with our magic ring. And in our magic ring, we're going to single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll pull that, and then we'll get ready for round 2, where we're going to increase to 9. Okay, let's increase from 6 stitches to 9, and we'll do that by increasing into our first stitch and then single crocheting into the next. And so I'm just going to work over my tail. So we'll go ahead and do an increase, and then we'll follow that, whoops, by a single crochet. We've got our increase and then our single crochet. And so we've got 9 stitches in round 2. We'll just pull that tight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 1 in each of the 9 stitches. And then what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 2 more stitches and end with a slip stitch. And I'll show you that in round 3. Okay, we are on round 3, and we're going to start off by single crocheting 1 in each of the 9 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're in our last stitch, 9, and then what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet 1 into the next stitch, 1 into the next stitch after that, and then lastly in the next stitch we're just going to do a slip stitch. And now that we've got our slip stitch, we're going to cut off a length of tail for sewing. And we just pull out our hook, And now I'll have you go back and make a second eye, and then we'll go ahead and get the safety eyes placed in. We have our eyes all made, and now it's time to place in the safety eyes. And mine are pretty small, but you could go with a larger size depending on how you want it to look. But I'm just going to take my safety eye and place it right into the center. And just push it straight through, and then just pop on my back. Now these don't really need any kind of stuffing because of how small they are and the safety eye in there. It really helps it keep its shape. But if you want to, you can just take whatever little tail you have left and kind of stuff it in around there if you think it needs a little bit of extra support. And that's all it does, or all it takes to make up the safety eye. And again, I'll just place it right through the very center. Kind of pop the back on. And then we will be ready to go ahead and sew these on and then add the antennas, and then for the fun part, putting on the little sparkles. Okay, so I've got the safety eyes ready to go into the eyes, and it's time to sew them on. And I like to place mine close together, pretty much in the center, but maybe just a little higher up. So there's more to the bottom, it seems, than and more space at the bottom than there is the top, but that's complete preference. You go ahead and place yours wherever, but I do tend to put mine close together. And then just to sew on the eyes, I've got my yarn needle threaded, and we're gonna take our bug, and in order for me to place them, so the tail is faced into the center, and then I just work through the center, just coming up and doing the same thing for sewing. I come up through the first stitch and then go back down the next and then into the body, and then just again come back up and just repeat that, going through and just go all the way around. And that's how I put my eyes on. So I'll let you sew your eyes on, and if you have an easier way, definitely go with that. This is just how I tend to do it. Sewing the parts on is definitely not my favorite part, but once they're on, I'm really happy. But if you've got an easier way, I highly suggest doing it, because I'm sure I'm doing it the hardest way possible. But okay, so there's working on my first eye, and then I'll meet you back when I have my second eye placed. We are ready for the last bit of sewing, and that is for the antennas. So I've got my yarn needle on, and if you look at your antenna, you can kind of see, which side you want to have facing forward as far as the way the texture looks. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to take my longer tail, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of lined it up. So if you're looking at it, we've got right where the eyes are. I'm going to come up right the full round right above the eyes. It's kind of preference, but that's where I'm going to come in, and I'm going to kind of line it up with the center line and just come in through there with my long tail and pretty much just kind of pull through and just kind of get them secured right in place. And then kind of take a look with my other one. Yeah, I'm going to be happy with that. So we'll stick with that, and I'll come back up and grab the other side of the antenna if I can, and I know it's hard with all this dark, and just kind of pull through there to really secure both sides, even though they're small little sides of the antenna, so to make sure they kind of stay in place. Come on, work with me now. There we go. And just kind of pull that back through and through the body. Just gonna give it a pull. And there's my antenna on. And then I'll just kind of weave it through the body a few times. And then I'll do the same with the smaller tail. I'll just pull that through and then weave that through the body a few times to really kind of keep that antenna secure. So if anybody comes and kind of picks him up by the antenna or gives him a little tug, it's not going to slip out. So let me get the other tail, and I'll just kind of come in straight through. And the nice thing about these tails is because of the way that we crochet down that back bump, they are a little flexible, and if you kind of work with them, you can kind of get like a curl, well, not really a curl, but you can kind of get them to be bent or straight up. It just gives them a little something to work with, even without a wire in there. So there's the first one. And then I'll have you go ahead and sew on your antennas, and then we'll get to adding the little sparkles. Okay, here he is, pretty much done. Now it's just the fun part of decorating him. I mean, he's cute just as he is as a plain little bug, but I want to take, and since I'm doing a light yellow, I want to do some really vibrant blue little rhinestones or plastic little gems, and that's what I'm going to add on to mine. And this part is all preference on how you would like to do everything. I'm just going to take my E6000, and the reason why I use this is because it's so strong, but I don't really like having contact with it very much, so I do tend to take like a toothpick, just kind of dab that on and start placing it. And wherever you want, however you want to style it, you could decorate it with the little gemstones in the shape of a heart or maybe a star. I'm just kind of going for the traditional little spots on the bug, but there's so many varieties, you know, with the colors that you use for the bug and then the colors of the stones that you use. I was thinking about doing a white bug and then just a whole bunch of rainbow spots on him, and it's unlimited to what you can do. But this is all it takes. Just use a strong glue to put the little spots on, and as you can see with some of the other bugs that I did, I have got bigger sparkles on there and just kind of went for the regular look, but here's what a little bit bigger looks like. Here's what the smaller looks like, and there's just no wrong way to do this. And so if you want to go ahead and make up some of these bugs, I would love to see them. I'm going to go ahead and put my Instagram up, and I'd love to see any versions you made. And then the other thing is if you wanted to put like a magnet on the bottom, that would make for a great magnet. I'm going to do that for my it's my craft cart that I have, and just kind of put some magnets on there and stick them on there for decoration, or even on a refrigerator would look cute. And then you could also put like a little jump ring up and make it like a little backpack charm or a keychain. So the possibilities with these are endless. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and again, I'd love to see anything you make. I hope you have a great day. Bye.